release kickoff call for 13.5, a release slated for October 22nd, 2020. I am particularly excited about this release because this is the first release after we changed our prioritization substantially to prioritize usability improvements and user experience over classic revenue driver features. If you want to follow along with what we're going to talk about, you can go to the direction release kickoff page, which has issues, videos for all the things that we're going to talk about today. As usual, we plan ambitiously, so what we discuss here is subject to change, although we try our best to meet what we say here for the release. With that, I'm going to lay out the play today. We'll start off with enablement, led by Josh, followed by dev, led by Eric, who will hand it over to Kenny for ops, and finally, we'll wrap it up with secure and defend with David. Take it away, Josh.
Thanks, Adoop. Let me share my screen and get underway. Of course, we have a lot of exciting features coming here in this release. I can't get to talk about all of them, so please do look through our videos. They'll have a lot more detail on each of our groups and what they are doing. But first up, let me go ahead and talk about the work we are doing to improve the maturity of some of our areas, in particular in this case, the disaster recovery. So the big problem we have in trying to get to viable maturity today is that we don't support all data types in GitLab. And so we want to try and resolve that and have everything supported in 13.5 with the exception of pages, because that's being redesigned. And that would be a huge improvement for disaster recovery. So to that end, we are working on using our self-service framework to replicate Terraform state, version Terraform state, and external merge request diffs. We're also working to add support in the self-service framework for Git repository-based data types, which aren't supported today. And that's namely for snippets, as you can see here. And doing those 4 remaining data types, again, will get us to all data types supported for replication for both geo-replication and disaster recovery, which is really exciting. We've been working on this for some time. We're also working to go GA with Patroni. We have an experimental status right now. We have a couple items we're working through. Patroni is the Postgres, multi-node Postgres solution we use on GitLab.com. And we'd like to bring that proven solution to our customers. We're working on getting rid of one potential split brain and a couple other items before removing that experimental label and encouraging our users to switch over. It also has support for Postgres 12, which our current version of Rip Manager does not. We're also working to improve the support of GitLab on OpenShift. We're doing this by working with Red Hat. Thank you so much for their participation and help on developing an operator that can improve the deployment of GitLab on OpenShift. We're working on doing a couple of things, namely building a package with the operator and the Helm chart inside of it so that you can more easily deploy it into your cluster and have it then deploy GitLab. It's a pretty big requirement for beta, and so we're working to resolve that this release, among a couple other things. Transitioning from the feature work over to usability, we are driving forward on improving performance for GitLab itself. One of the big aspects of this is the fact that we don't currently send down images that are sized to the size that they're utilized. So for avatars, for example, they can be up to 200 by 200 pixels in size, which, as you can see here, we oftentimes don't render them that way. This really slows down page load speeds, and so we're working to resolve this. We have it running experimentally on GitLab.com today. We have a couple items we're working on, but mainly we've been working through some of the security aspects, and we are have identified a path forward here to use a Golang-based solution, and we'll drive towards that with the goal of rolling it out more widely on .com as well. Next up, we're working to automate the reindexing of indexes. This is important to make sure that your database doesn't get too bloated and it remains performant. Today, you can run this manually, but even for those who are aware of it, like we are on GitLab.com, it can still creep up on you. And so we want to automate this and remove one more thing you have to do when running your GitLab instance. Next up, we're also working on partitioning. We were working on for the audit events table previously. We're waiting on one thing from the compliance team on the UI side before we can finish up that work. And then we're also transitioning over to the events table, which contains everything you do in GitLab. It's kind of like your activity log. And so it's quite large and needs to be partitioned. Last but not least, we are working on redesigning the global search user experience. Right now, if you've used it it could stand some improvement, and we are driving towards this as an interim step. So you can see here we have kind of the left-hand side pane with a whole lot richer set of facets or filtering options. This will let you better drill into the content you're looking for, with the overall goal of having a single page for all content types and having this sidebar be dynamic based on what you're looking for and what results are actually in your list and relevant to your search query. So that'll be a really huge improvement. We've been iterating on this already by the addition of the status filter on the left-hand side. Now we're also adding confidentiality, and we're also working to add support for epics, which today aren't indexed at all in global search. And so those will also now be findable as well. So that's it for enablement. Really excited about these features. Again, check out our videos. There's a lot more I couldn't cover today. And with that, I'd like to hand off to Eric for Dev to talk about all the exciting things that Eric has for us and his team coming as well.
Thank you so much, Josh. That's some really exciting stuff. Yeah, I'm going to spike into what we are planning for the dev section in 13.5. I have grouped our items by 3 different themes. The first one is usage and usability, and let's go ahead and dive right in. The first thing our access group is going to work on is an optional admin approval for local user signup. This will be a really nice feature to allow GitLab signups to still be open to anyone who wants to sign up, but then for them to be gated by an admin on the back end. Right now, the selections are pretty binary. It's either turned off, or it's like an invite only, or it's fully open so someone can register and immediately start using GitLab. But we want this to be a little bit of a middle ground. And this should really just help admins control, while also enabling people to sign up and get to use GitLab. I want to highlight a feature our compliance team is working on, which is the ability to export merge requests to CSVs. You can do this today for issues, but the reason this is important for merge requests is because there's so much data in a merge request that can be utilized in a compliance audit. And so exporting that data and providing it to an auditor can be really useful, especially when that data needs to live in some system outside of GitLab. So excited for this usability improvement, where it can really help prove the evidence that you need to successfully pass that audit. Our plan team is going to work on a few usability improvements, namely promoting issues to epics and making that discoverable. If you've ever used this feature today, you know it's kind of hard to figure out how to actually do this. You have to do it via quick action, which is a slash command in a issue comment. So in order to promote an issue to an epic, you type /promote, and it'll promote the issue to an epic. We want to make that and future actions to issues more discoverable. And the way that we're going to do this is by adding a little menu in the top right near the issue title. And when you click on this menu, it should provide several options. And in this particular MVC, we'll be adding that promote to epic option right there to make that more discoverable and easier to use. And speaking of plan usability, we want to provide the ability to edit really anything about an issue directly on the board, but we're going to start with editing an issue title in the swim lane sidebar. So what this will look like is clicking on an issue on the board, and then you see the sidebar pull out, and you can edit fields right here on the issue. We're going to start with the title, and then expand this and continue making more things editable right on the board, so you can work in context and in flow. Really exciting change. It's a small one, but it's going to make a huge difference to those that work on epics and boards all the time. For our source code group, we are launching a feature very, very shortly to assign reviewers directly on the merge request. So in addition to an assignee, you'll also have a reviewer section. And this improvement to that feature basically matches up merge request approval rules to the reviewers. So you can tell exactly who you need to assign as a reviewer to make sure that you have the correct approval rules when you want to get that MR merged. So a great improvement, and should really help kind of decrease the time it takes to get the right people to do code review. We also have a feature that's called a draft MR. It used to be called a WIP, or work in progress MR. But you can only utilize this feature if you actually prepend a little word to the beginning of the merge request title. We want to make this feature a lot more discoverable by adding a button to essentially mark a merge request as draft. That should really increase the usability and the number of users that actually take advantage of this feature. Our static site editor team has been iterating really nicely over the past few releases, and they're going to continue to do so in 13.5 by allowing you to embed a YouTube video into the static site editor. So this is simply copy and pasting in a YouTube link and then having that embed appropriately when you make that change via the static site editor. If you're a GitLab handbook contributor, you know that this is going to be a really nice change for you because we cross-reference a ton of YouTube videos in our handbook. And so this will be a really nice change for anyone that wants to embed videos. And then lastly, I am so excited and proud of our knowledge team for getting to this point. But in 13.5, we are going to launch group level wikis. This is something we have been working on for quite some time. I'm very, very excited that this is going to show up in 13.5. And then not only is group level wikis landing, but we're also going to start reflecting properly the wiki's deep nesting structure in the sidebar. So if you have a ton of pages, you know that subdirectories don't really get nested appropriately in the sidebar. So this is a change to make that happen so you can much more easily understand the structure of your wiki. So huge improvements going on here. Really excited for this. I have a few more things and a few other themes. The first one is competitive features. And we are also going to launch snippets with multiple files in 13.5. In fact, if you're a GitLab.com user, you can probably see this go live in the next week or two, as I believe it's already on staging. But if you've used gists on GitHub, you know that they already have multiple file gists, and so this is a really nice iteration to our snippets feature to allow for multiple files. And then we're also going to add a group setting for default initial branch name for new repositories. This will be really nice for those organizations that want to change the default branch name to something other than master, say main or mainline, to promote inclusivity and to be empathetic as we deal with various social issues and to be supportive in our organizations. So really excited to see this land. It's a great feature, but it's going to go a long ways in promoting diverse and inclusive environments. And then our last theme is our single platform. And I want to highlight two things that we're working on in the dev section to help here. The first is our GitLab group migration MVC. This is essentially a way to help streamline the process from migrating from a GitLab self-managed instance into GitLab.com or vice versa. You can do this today, but you have to export a group to a file and then import that file back into the other instance. And it can be a little bit messy, and it's just not a great experience. We want this experience to be 100% instantiated inside of the product. And so what we're going to do simply in this MVC is allow to see a list of top level groups and select those groups one by one to be migrated over to your new instance. And then our last feature I want to highlight is something that we are going to improve in our VS Code extension. We recently officially supported a VS Code extension. It's our first new feature to that extension by allowing users to insert snippets into the current file that they're in VS Code. So this should really help kind of streamline and make the development process more efficient, especially if you're using the plugin to have a list of snippets and easily insert those into your file. So as always, this is just a small sampling of the things that the dev team is going to be working on. I'm really excited. This is totally going to be the best release ever. And over to you, Kenny.
Hey, thanks, Eric. My name is Kenny Johnston. I am the Senior Director of Product Management covering the ops section. Here's my screen. The ops section includes 5 stages: verify, package, release, configure, and monitor. And there are actually 9 product groups working in there. So as others mentioned, not able to cover the full gamut of what's going on across these different groups. I'm going to highlight a couple of key issues in specific themes, but I would really encourage you to check out both the videos and the linked planning issues that give you a good sense of kind of what's going on across the entire section. The first theme I want to highlight, and I'm going to go through the similar themes that Eric went through, is usage and usability. And there's one specific issue I want to call out, and that is generating the run pipeline form from some pre-filled variables in your GitLab CI YAML. If you're a user of the manual run pipeline form, you know that you can add content to the variables that you want to run in that pipeline form, but it's cumbersome because you have to look up exactly what the variable name is in the CI YAML file itself. So what we're going to be doing in 13.5 is adding the ability to set, when you're defining those variables, the default value and description for them, which will mean that when you're creating and running the pipeline form, it'll automatically pull those values in, and so that it's much easier to get to adjust what you need and use the defaults that you want to keep the same. It's a great usability feature to allow more pipeline runs and a smoother experience for running manual pipelines. Before I move on to the other themes that are spanning the section, I also want to highlight that within our verify group specifically, in the last release, we have actually created a new group that is called Verify Pipeline Authoring that is really completely focused on this usability experience of getting started with GitLab CI. And so that group has a number of issues that they're already scheduled for 13.5. I just wanted to highlight two of them specifically. One, when you're writing your YAML file and you want to do a linter on it, there's a linter interface directly within GitLab. Previously, you'd have to copy your GitLab CI YAML file that's in the project you're viewing this linter in into this pane, and then you would see the linter warnings from as a result of that YAML syntax check. What we're going to do in 13.5 is automatically load that. So when you go check the YAML lint, you can immediately see any syntax warnings that were generated for the YAML file for your specific project. The second thing we're going to be doing in 13.5 with in that pipeline authoring group is show more rich context when generating errors that are found in your pipeline. And we're instrumenting a number of these specific errors to docs, but what we really want to do is make the experience of troubleshooting your pipeline as you're authoring it much more smooth by giving you rich context to look at the kind of specific syntax that you might be missing or need to improve for your pipeline to run successfully. Switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about places where we're entering new markets. And in past Kickoff releases, I've spoken about our capabilities around alert and incident management. And it's funny, I typically talk about the next iteration when we have yet to ship the future iteration. And so I'm going to talk about some future improvements upon things that are shipping next week in Monitor Incident Management. This is all geared towards us allowing users to have a robust incident management experience right here in GitLab. A really exciting feature, and there are a number of future iterations going into incident management. The one that I'm most excited about is this adding an SLA timer to your incidents. It's really important when you think about incident management and response time that your operational organization probably has SLAs that they need to perform to ensure that they get a service back up and running quickly. What this does is give you that context in the application that you're using to manage your incidents, GitLab in this case. So what we'll be adding in 13.5 is the ability to configure the SLAs for your instance in the incident settings tabs. Also, when you're in the incident, and you'll see this time to SLA that will count down from when the incident is created to the SLA hitting. And when it does get to 0, it adds a specific tag, a bot adds a specific tag so that you know that these incidents have had their SLAs violated. And then the other thing is when looking at a list of issues or incidents, you would want to be able to filter them based on how much time they have until the SLA is up. So that we'll be adding that to the incident list as well. The last theme that I wanted to highlight is about single platform, and the ops section spans so many stages. What we're really trying to do is bridge connections between different parts of your software development lifecycle and make those easier by where in the past you might have had to connect a couple of different tools to perform these actions. We can do it in one because we do provide a single DevOps platform for you. The issue I wanted to highlight specifically is automatic rollback. So in our release capabilities, we have progressive delivery and continuous delivery. That is the automated deployment of your application. We have different deployment scenarios like Canary. And in this case, what we're going to be doing is connecting to some of the capabilities we have in incident and alert management, that if a metric that is defined for that environment has an alert on it, and that alert fires during the progressive delivery or automated deployment process, it'll automatically roll it back by performing the pipeline run from the last good successful pipeline run. Really great capability that enables your operations team to have more confidence in the deployment process that you're running on a regular basis, and a showcase of this kind of single platform value that we can add. As I mentioned, there's tons of videos, lots of content that you can go dive into. I highly encourage you to do so. I'm super excited about the capabilities that we're adding in the ops section in 13.5. With that, I will hand it off to David to cover secure and defend. David.
Thank you, Kenny. Let's get browser shared here. So like everyone else who's touched on themes, for this release, We're primarily focused on the usability and usage. And with that, let's just dive right in and see what we're doing with that. So with regards to static analysis, we are extending the non-ultimate, non-gold experience. Now that we've moved security scanners down to core or to free, if you're using .com, the only way you can see the results today would be going out to the artifacts for that pipeline and downloading the JSON file directly. And we want to make sure security is approachable, it's usable, and that does not provide a great experience for someone who's just starting to adopt secure. So today, when you're looking at your pipeline, you can see that a warning occurred on the job, which in this case would be the Node.js scanner. What we want to be able to do is alert the user within the UI that they know that they should go look at those results. And here you can see we've added in a bar, very similar to what our ultimate experience is today on the merge request. And it's highlighting if there are new findings. We're adding also in this button that says download results. And this is going to then go grab the relevant security report and bring it to you so you can review it that way without having to go dig for it. It's also going to point out that you can leverage our vulnerability management experience, which is in Gold and Ultimate, to do a better job of interacting, tracking, and managing that risk. Within the dynamic analysis team, the DAS team is adding the components for our scanner profile. The scanner profile we launched a couple of releases ago with just some very basic information. We're beginning to add in additional options as well. And then that allows that scan profile to be reused as you begin to build out new scans. The last item for the DAS team, they're also adding the remaining items to the site profile. And last time we talked about the validating the target site, allowing you to scan any application that you own. We're also down here beginning to add in information related to usernames, passwords, and the other components needed to be able to sign in and continue to test the application. On the software composition analysis side, we're getting ready to release our first version of our full auto remediation. This will be taking the steps that are there today manually, where if we can identify something we can remediate, we allow you to click a button that says resolve with merge request. It involves that step and the ability to merge it back in. When you enable this, the GitLab bot will see that there's an item it can auto remediate. It'll apply that fix, run it, and if it's successful, it brings it back into your existing merge request. So completely automated, and it's a first step on our long-term goal to be able to essentially remediate any finding both within your production side that you're using Secure for, as well as on the development side. On the secure scanning side, on the fuzz testing side to be specific, with the release that comes out next week, our API fuzz testing will be available as an MVC, so we're very excited about that. That ties back to the acquisitions we had back at the beginning of the summer. But with that, now we want to be able to bring you a viable experience and be able to interact with the vulnerabilities. So here, this is referring to generating the security report structure that all of our scanners and our third parties generate, that we can now bring those results into the dashboard and into the merge request. And so that'll be part of this upcoming milestone to allow you to be able to interact with the fuzz findings like you would any other vulnerability. We're also going to be documenting how to generate a HAR file. HAR files are a way to let the API fuzz testing engine know how to interact with your REST API. So this will walk you through how to generate that HAR file, have the scanner pick it up, and get a much better fuzz testing experience. And the final part for secure, the vulnerability management category is getting some nice improvements. We're going to be adding in an activity column onto the dashboard. It's going to allow us to go deeper than what we were telling you previously with icons over in the description. As you can see here, it's showing you the ability to see all issues that are associated to that vulnerability, not just the one that was created off the standalone vulnerability page, as well as show you whether or not there's actions you need to follow up on, such as in the top screenshot, the vulnerability is now identified as remediated, and we're wanting you to confirm that so it can be closed. The other powerful thing that gives you is another filter option on the dashboard. So now you're going to be able to filter out by things such as there's been no activity taken, are there issues created, are we no longer seeing it as a valid vulnerability and we want you to look at it. So give me that additional power to triage even deeper than you can today. The final thing we're adding to the dashboard in 13.5 is the ability to see the current status of the vulnerabilities that you're seeing on the dashboard. So here at the top, there's a new box. It's showing the last time the data was updated. In this case, it's showing a scan ran 10 minutes ago. But let's say you want to know whether or not that scan that's showing there is say 2 weeks old, a month old. That would then be a visible there for you as well. But then also, if the last pipeline failed, we want to make sure you're aware that the results are not complete. And you can come here and click on the tag here, and it'll take you over to the failed pipeline view so you can see what happened and be able to fix the problem. That's a lot of stuff that's going on with Secure. Over to Defend. We've been talking a lot about our policy manager, and that is rolling out with 13.4, so we're very excited about that. But we're also adding in our alerts dashboard MVC with 13.5. So here's a snapshot of what the policy manager looks like. And you can actually come down to the bottom here and now add in send alert to GitLab. And when you do that, it's going to pull it into the new alerts tab off the threat monitoring view off the security and compliance menu. You can see it's a nice Kanban view of your findings or your alerts. Here you can triage them, move them over to in review or confirmed. But you can not only just drag them, but you can also interact with them directly on the card. So here you can see I clicked on the card that says unreviewed. I can change it to whatever status that is, as well as if it's a false positive or a false alert, I can just click on the dismiss and get it off the board. Our goal is to give you this similar workflow as to what you're seeing in Kenny's section with regards to alerts management and incident management. So we're bringing that single platform experience the whole way across the platform. And I can't stress this enough. As a team, we've been doing a kickoff related to this section. I just touched briefly on what we talked about in that session, so please check that out. It's a great video. It's a little long, but a lot of great content in there. With that, I'll hand it back over to Anoop.
Thank you, team. This is incredible. I was listening to searchable epics, editing issue titles and swim lane sidebars, group level wikis, pipeline authoring improvements, automatic rollbacks, improving experience for all and not just the ultimate users on security. I love how we're pivoting to usage and usability. As always, we invite the entire community to participate and contribute. And with that, we'll see you again next month.